Good evening, Mount Vernon. Today is January 22nd, and this is our regularly scheduled city council meeting. We are going to start just some general housekeeping. For those in the chambers, please turn your cell phones off or put them on mute or vibrate. If you need to take a phone call, please step out into the hallway to take that phone call. If there is an emergency, we have two exits. We have a double doors in the front of the pews, and then we have a door in the back. The restrooms for the women, if you go outside the double doors, it's going to be on the right-hand side. For the men, it's going to be outside the double doors. It's going to be straight ahead by the main staircase that leads down to the rotunda. If there is an emergency, we'll also take the main rotunda steps, or we can go out the doors and make a right. There's going to be a staircase on the right-hand side that will take us down to the ground level where we can exit. We are actually going to do the Pledge of Allegiance to start off. And we're going to have Deputy Clerk Bonilla do it for us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. So it is Wednesday. We're going to start with comments from the public first, and I'm going to go down the list of speakers that I have here. For everyone's reference, you have 3 minutes to speak, and then you have an additional minute. You have 4 minutes total. At the 3-minute mark, you'll hear a buzzer letting you know that you have 1 additional minute to wrap up your comments. When you come up to the mic, please state your name and address for the record. And we're going to start with Miss Terry Ann Lee.
Miss Lee, you can unmute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. Good evening, everyone. So real quick, because I have a babysitting issue and I want him to disturbing everybody. So my proposal, what I want to speak about rather, is the noise control. Every summer since I've been living in Mount Vernon, whether it's the north side, south side, wherever, the noise, the music is loud, volume is up, and whenever I call the police officers, they say that it's until 9:30. What I'm trying to propose is if you guys could put in an ordinance from 9 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Um, or have a decibels where it's not your music is not supposed to be louder than a leaf blower during the day. There's no reason for me to stay on my block and hear music playing 3, 4 blocks over. If you are just having a private party for you and your fellow guests. So that's really one of what I'm trying to get. I don't know if I need petitions. I could always walk, do the street beat and get petitions. And I'm sure most of my neighbors would agree, either on either side of Mount Vernon. Nowhere. I don't think anybody wants to come in at Saturday after work, after working a long shift to hear somebody else playing music. During the nice times, during the spring, we can't even open the window because the music is so loud. So it's like disturbing. So you gotta run your AC, energy bill, because your neighbor decides to have a whole fiesta. So that's really what I'm trying to see. And it also does disturb the children's sleep pattern too. Because if you're having music going all the way until 9:30, people with young children and infants can attest to this. You put them on a regular schedule, you cannot maintain that regular schedule in summer or spring because the music is so loud. So this is what I'm trying to see if you guys could do for us as a city overall, just to have the music, the turn down volume move from 9 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Or if not, no more than 84 decibel, which is about the sound of a leaf blower. And if you ever been woken up by a gas leaf blower in the mornings, you'll know. It's not fun. So thank you guys for the time, and hopefully we can come to a consensus.
Thank you. Just as a FYI, all of the council members will respond to the comments from the constituents, after the last speaker. The next speaker up is Jessica Saul. Is Ms. Saul online?
Miss Saul, are you online?
Okay, we'll come back to her. Mr. Gabriel Thompson?
Howdy ho. Happy New Year. Okay, well, a few questions. In today's agenda, which must have been recently updated, you have a hotel tax and it says 3% parentheses 5.785%. This is just another example of like just absolute lack of any quality control, proofreading, accuracy, honesty. You call low-income housing projects market rate and mixed income. That's not what they are. There's nothing wrong with having the position that you support Mount Vernon taking all the low-income housing projects. I mean, it behooves me why you would do that, because you know the state and the county are happy to dump them here for obvious reasons. It's classic redlining. The same developers build 90-10, 80-20, and New Rochelle all over. And here, no. So in May of 2024, I asked Danielle, what about lowering the speed limit? I myself was killed by a driver in a street that was 35 miles an hour when I was 7 years old. And that street is no longer 35 miles an hour. There are no streets that are 35 miles an hour in the city I grew up in. She said, we're working on it. I think we have different definitions of the word work. Me versus this city. I believe work means you get shit done. If people don't respond, you on their ass. They don't show up, they're in front of you. They don't do their job, you name them, you shame them, you drag them if you have to. You shouldn't have to. I think that everybody here is just not paying attention, collecting a salary for the most part. I think Danielle does most of the work, it seems like. No offense, does. But, and I see her ask most of the tough questions and smart questions. And I know people here have them, and it's nerve-wracking. It's nerve-wracking for me to get up here and speak. I don't want to have to. But I had a street sweeper come on my blog once in 2024 after several emails and weeks of emails to the council. That's county law. That's we're in a consent order to do that, to keep the shit out of our sewers, right? Not that shit, but garbage, leaves, debris. 2024 delinquent taxes. You guys voted, I think, to accept the list, and the comptroller says, no, they're not supposed to accept that list. They're supposed to wait 7 days. I don't see it back on the next agenda. So were you not supposed to? Is somebody playing games with it? Are they playing hot potato? I don't know. All I know is that the first kind of real kind of demand of oversight was the building commissioner, and I have real problems. It was up here yesterday. And why isn't our mayor demanding those KPIs? Why isn't, that's her commissioner. Why isn't he developing those? And by the way, the picking two that took 11 months to get back to you, that's BS. I can show you 40 people in my neighborhood's results. You know, it's like, is anything happen, right? Does anything move forward? Does anything get followed up on? Why does every product from the law department rife with misspellings? I mean, they should be fired. If you can't draft a basic one-page legal document accurately, I mean, I don't understand how you got a license. You passed the bar. I mean, there's all this stuff you like don't realize the state regulates taxes. Like, who on planet, or I know that, and I'm just a schmuck. Like, we have a legislative aid, we've got a law department, we got a corporation counsel, we got 2 JDs on the council, 1 lawyer who's not a lawyer and as her job on the council. But I mean, like, this is basic. Like, every state's that way, really. And in Javon's fairness, he wasn't here when the one with his name on the letterhead, when he wasn't even here when it was written. Anyways, yeah. All this for the highest tax rate in Westchester. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Jeff Monroe? Is Mr. Jeff Monroe online?
Mr. Monroe, are you online?
Okay, we'll come back to him. Mr. Peter Shalis?
Sahalis, Peter Sahalis,
Sahalis, my apologies.
335 Miller Place, Mount Vernon, New York, resident of Mount Vernon since 1961, right off the boat. From a place called Greece, Sparta, Greece, where we actually kind of discovered democracy, and then we found out how it fails. And ladies and gentlemen, you've all got an opportunity to speak to me, and you don't. I Googled just before I came here, a job for a council person. You're not doing it. You're not doing it. You need my phone number. I'll give it to you again. I have video, I have witnesses, I have proof of all my allegations. I don't want to sit up here and make a disaster out of this thing. It's really stuff that should be spoken about behind closed doors. And none of you, Mr. Boxell spoke to me. We never met, but I'm Pete. Ms. Gleason spoke to me briefly, but everyone here said they were going to get back of issues with the fire department, building department, water department, and these all real. They're not fragmented, you know. I've been falsely arrested three times, twice recently because of a crooked developer. We had tainted judges, make-believe court trials, you know, with people in the audience that shouldn't be there. We need to talk, ladies and gentlemen. You need my phone number? 699-5050. 914-699-5050. My cell phone number is 914. Anybody writing it down? I'll get you tattoos if pen don't work right. I got pens. 914-497-0760. Real quick, we got some other issues. School buses shouldn't dominate the real estate in Mount Vernon. Okay, we got churches with a lot of parking lots that are unused. We got school bus companies with a lot of parking lots that are unused, but yet everybody makes a big deal about parking. There's some simple common sense solutions. These school bus companies should not allow their people to dominate the parking spaces in all the neighborhoods. Every business person within the radius, pretty big radius of a bus company is affected by this nonsense. They make enough money off the school. Taxes are high enough. Signs, DPW. I need to talk about this. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to get shot when I go outside. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave you with that. You got my number. You know who I am. We got some valid points. Please reach out, because otherwise you'll be hearing from. I've been to many, many meetings before any of you guys were elected in. And it seems to be the same repetition. The same people pulling strings. Why does everything have to be litigation? I rest my case. Have a good night. Get back to me.
Thank you. We're gonna go back to Terry Ann Lee. Actually, just kidding. We're gonna go back to Miss Jessica Saul.
Jessica Saul, are you online?
All right, Mr. Jeff Monroe.
Greetings, council, happy new year, and staff. Greetings, community, online and in the room. And for the record, my name is Jeff Monroe. I'd like to come back to the community and the council to put my word in again, to not from my personal interest, frankly, and not necessarily just from my personal beliefs, although it's in part that I do want to put in for a growing body of voices and interests in our community that would want to see this body become more ethically bound, more morally bound, and at least in action, as opposed to just rhetoric, more bound to what your obligations to the community are, and frankly to humanity. So I want to say that in light of all the crocodile tears and gnashing of teeth that have been, the order of the day since the inauguration of President Trump, and frankly, should have been the case since the inauguration of Joe Biden and every other criminal president in the United States since the founding of this country. So I say that to say that colonialism has been the reality of the United States since before 1776, and has certainly been the case since the ratification of its Constitution. So obviously, we're not going to change federal or national standards in Mount Vernon, but we at least have an obligation to begin to question those standards here and now, at least because we're in this social crisis, supposedly, and this body is charged with doing part of that work. You're legislators, not just because you create laws and regulate, but also because you create and you're supposed to represent the interests of community interests and the humane interests of humanity in the community. So I want to say that because I've been here before asking for very basic kind of almost turnkey capabilities to be executed here. Community media and the way of public access. As a body, you've refused to do that. You've even disabled the one chartered commission that would deal with that I sat on, let me time out of my tenure. And now the committee doesn't even meet. I suppose you have no interest in community media, and who knows why that would be an interest in the so-called democratic institution, right? Nevertheless, here we stand. You also have committed to a lot of hand-wringing about the resolution last year to take down Columbus's name off of the official calendar for Columbus Day, which is an understandable, and it's a consistent acknowledgement of a genociding, marauding personality in the colonial era of this country. So it's not inconsistent to say that Columbus should be blessing the street signs of the little couple miles worth of Route 22. That is what you call Columbus Avenue. But you couldn't even abide by that. You couldn't even, I don't know who the resolution was really put forward by, but nevertheless, a handful of members of the Italian community came forward with a lot of ahistorical and more subjective emotional reactions as to why Columbus is their hero and why Columbus should be adorning the streets of our community. Of course, there's no consistency in that because you claim to be against genociders, right? Oh no, actually you stood with a genocider by the name of George Latimer as he ran Jamal Bowman out of office at the behest of AIPAC, standing by a bunch of genociders in this government who've killed over a couple 100,000 people in Palestine. And frankly, that number is still growing. So I just want to ask you to be consistent. Why don't you go ahead and put Hitler's name up on California Road right across from the synagogue if you want to be consistent?
Thank you, Ms. Monroe.
Hitler was an author. He was an artist. There are all kind of good people that good things people will say Hitler was good for that you could commemorate, just as you're commemorating Columbus, right? So to close, I'm going to say, just do better. I'm going to say, be consistent in the way of humanity, no, not in the way that you've been consistent with the way that you stand by colonial United States. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the speakers for tonight. We're going to get into council responses. I'm going to start with Councilman Boxell.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. I think, Mr. Thompson, you're the only one left in the room. So I appreciate your criticism. I don't necessarily agree with everything you say, but I definitely agree that there's definitely room for improvement. So thank you for that. Mr. Monroe, that was a lot, and I will take your advisement into consideration as well. So thank you. We didn't hear from Ms. Saul. Ms. Lee, yeah, that's definitely something that needs to be researched, moving the time from 9 to 7:30 p.m. So we'll definitely look into that as well. And Mr. Peter, he left early, but I've spoken to him on several occasions. Some of the things I don't really want to address on the record right here, but yeah, it's something that we'll continue to talk about as well. So I'll help him as much as he needs. So, and that is all my comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Boxell. Councilwoman Gleason.
Thank you, Madam President. The noise abatement, we definitely need to look into that. Mr. Thompson, I did, contact the DPW commissioner. I've advised him again regarding that area for the sweeper. A point I would like to make is just because a group comes to speak to council does not often mean that that project would be approved to go forward, whether it be low income, affordable income, or workforce housing. Sometimes there are concept plans to be considered. I will look into, the speed limit. We did discuss that and find out what the update on that is. As for Mr. Monroe, we are looking into new members to be appointed to the Cable Advisory Committee. So if there's anybody out in the public that's interested, please put your resume into the city clerk's office. And, Pete, the tow truck driver, I know, I did follow up with the police department. They are working hand in hand with, a representative of, Pete's to get his yard up to where it needs to be to do the towing. And, my understanding is they'll be meeting with the clerk's office, tomorrow, to speak about other requirements. As far as anything else that, Pete, the tow truck driver, was speaking of, I'm not quite sure what he's referring to. So with that being said, DPW definitely needs to put more street signs up. I know that they're in the process of doing that. And I believe that is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Gleason. Councilman
Oh,
Thompson?
I'm sorry. Can I just add one more thing, Madam
Sure.
President? Mr. Thompson, I beg to differ with you. I think we all work really hard on council. So I just wanted to make sure I told you that because there were plenty of times where I showed up when other people didn't. All right, thank you.
Councilman Thompson?
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to make a blanket statement, if I will, because it becomes a little, I like for everyone to come out and render whatever issues are going on throughout the city, because we know a lot has transpired in and throughout the city. But it becomes frustrating when we hear residents come in with accusations, being accusatory, and belittling council persons when they know that we do a lot of work on this council. We've been called incompetent, rubber stampers, and lack many things, and the language that's used towards us is unacceptable. So going forward for 2025, if you would like a response from me on this council, you will speak respectfully, and we'll come to a conclusion on how we can better help our residents. But I will no longer tolerate anyone in this room or anyone who speaks to the council being disrespectful, because that's not how we carry ourselves. And I will never let anyone belittle our council persons and speak down to our council persons, because every council person shows up for this city on a daily basis. We go above and beyond. And the misconception is people think when they bring things to the council that this is just one person's city and you can act on it. When you talk about functioning governments, you have to follow protocols so things don't happen overnight. Yes, we would like things to occur in transition and change overnight. However, that's not how government works. So, reality has a lot of people's minds messed up because they like to bicker and complain because there is a television, and they like people to see them say things so they can say, I told the council off, I said this and said that, and then they get to walk out and act as if that was okay. And it's not. It's ridiculous, and we have to do better. Not one person, all of us have to do better and work along with one another. We said we don't want to see infighting. However, we bring chaos and very little solutions to the table. So it's okay to bring your problems. We want to hear your problems, but we also want to hear what you suggest as a solution instead of belittling people and bickering and acting foolish just for the camera. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Thompson. Councilman Potteet?
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, Mount Vernon. Thank you to everyone that came and spoke. You could be anywhere on this very cold, frigid Wednesday night, and we're grateful that you're here. Miss Terry Ann Lee, I did look up the E-codes, and we do have something on the books for noise issues during 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So it's covered for 24 hours. There clearly is an issue of enforcement. And so we as council have to do a better job, because this isn't the first time that we've heard about noise issues in the city. But when it comes to passing law around the issue, that's already on the books. So we'll talk to police and see what they can do to enforce the ordinance that we have on the books around noise issues. But thank you for the thought about putting that on the books. But we just have to do a better job of enforcing what's on the books. Mr. Thompson, thank you for your comments. We are public servants, so we're here to serve the public. So thank you for your criticisms, and we can always do something better. There's a lot that we can probably do better. I am proud for the 3 years that I've been on council of the work that we've done as a city government. When we started back in 21, when our mayor started back in 19, things were in much worse shape than they are now. Again, that's not an excuse for getting even to a higher level of performance. So thank you for your critique. The other thing that I would say is we do have comp plan meetings. So you mentioned about affordable housing and letting that come through. One of the reasons why we pushed to have a comp plan was to make sure that the community's voice was heard. We won't always be in these seats, right? There's an election coming up, and several of us may not be here. But it's important that whoever sits in these seats speaks for the community. And so I'm proud of the fact that we pushed for the comp plan, and it's happening so that when someone else is sitting here, they will also have to abide by the voices of the community as demonstrated in the comp plan. If you would like to go to a meeting or several meetings, please express the issues that you have, because they're worthwhile issues. Mr. Chalice, again, he's not here. Same comments. Please come to the comp plan meetings, because any of the issues you have with the city, that they're being vetted out in the comp plan meeting. And lastly, Mr. Monroe, he's not here either, but I do want to speak on Columbus Day just for a sec. When we went through this, I believe it was 2 years ago now, but maybe last year, there were a lot of different voices for Columbus Day, against Columbus Day. There's information coming out that he was probably a Spaniard Jew, but the symbolism around Columbus Day to Italian Americans is very important. Maybe as a city, we can have a referendum around Columbus Day and let the people decide what should happen, and then therefore it's not up to us five, but it maybe can be voted on by the people to figure out if we want to keep Columbus Day, keep Columbus Avenue, or change that to something else. That's all I got. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Potteet. With regard to Columbus Avenue, it's actually a state road, so the council doesn't even have the authority to change that. Mr. Monroe will need to make an appeal to our state representatives, so Gary Pretlow and Jamal Bailey, to see whether or not the state is interested in changing that road based on the argument he gives. So that's one thing. I mean, we do have the authority to change the day, the holiday that we recognize in the city, but not the avenue, because it is a state road. Miss Lee, I think Councilman Potteet addressed it. It's really an enforcement issue. The difference between our current ordinance and the ordinance or the proposal that you have is 30 minutes. And I mean, it's not to say that we can't adjust it 30 minutes, but what I would love to see is a petition to see who in the community actually wants it. And it's going to be a community-wide ordinance if it is adjusted. So the petition should reflect more than just, you know, your block, your neighborhood, if that's something you're gonna pursue. But I do want to thank you for coming and giving your comments. And it sounds like Councilman Potteet, you're gonna follow up with PD to see about enforcement.
Will do.
Awesome. Mr. Thompson, you addressed a few things. Some, obviously, I agree with, some I don't. With regard to the speed limit, we brought DPW in last week, last meeting, maybe 2 meetings ago, when, DC Nikolovich presented, asked about the, consultant. So in order for us to reduce the speed limit, we actually have to have a consultant and engineer certified per New York State law. DPW hasn't been able to produce the traffic engineer who can certify it, right? So it's something we followed up on. It's something we brought them in front of the council to kind of figure out why. The deputy commissioner came in, said he wasn't aware of it, but it's been something we've been talking about for years now. So we can continue to call them to the front of council and ask the same questions. But, you know, part of it is we have to rely on some of the employees of the city to get some of the work done. With regard to, yeah, I think some of the other council members addressed the other ones. Not sure I need to repeat those. Trying to remember if there was, yeah, I think that's all I have. So that concludes comments from the council. Any other thoughts, comments, council members want to share? Yeah, sure, Councilman Potteet.
Again, Mr. Thompson, I am proud of the work that council has done. It could always be better. But for example, the city of Yonkers, every council person there has their own aide. Us 5 share 1. We do that obviously because we're mindful of that we are thoughtful of the budget issues of having city council, you know, having multiple aides and to minimize issues to our taxpayers. But when you talk about the work that we're doing, again, in comparison to, let's say, Yonkers, us 5 council members share 1 aide. Yonkers, every council person has their own aide. So just the work that they can do is a lot more because they have more staff on it. But that's the only comment.
Thank you. All right, so that concludes the public comment section. We can go ahead and move into the tally sheet. We're gonna start with legislation and public works.
Thank you, Madam President. Item number 1, Office of the Mayor. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and chief of staff to attend the National League of Cities Congressional City Conference in Washington, D.C. That is on the agenda. Item number 2, Department of Public Works. An ordinance authorizing the lease agreement for office space at 6 Gramerton Avenue, Suite 203. That's a lease extension. That is on the agenda. Item number 3, Department of Public Works, an ordinance establishing a list of qualified environmental sustainability consultants. That is on the agenda. Item number 4, Board of Water Supply, an ordinance authorizing the Board of Water Supply to add a position entitled Water Resource Specialist. That is on the agenda. Item number 5, an ordinance authorizing the Board of Water Supply to add position entitled Water Quality Analyst. That is on the agenda.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gleason. Any comments or questions for legislation and public works? I have some. Did we figure out whether or not the city has a building that they can move into as opposed to renewing this lease for DPW?
So I spoke to DPW and I spoke to Reverend Morton, and there is no building.
Comptroller Morton?
I'm sorry, Comptroller Morton, sorry, forgive me. I spoke to both of them. Comptroller Morton has confirmed that there is no building right now ready to house them. But he has discouraged from having any long-term lease, but was okay with the lease that was in place here for the extension.
So he said it's not ready right now. They're not trying to renew this lease until June. So he's saying that there's nothing available in the next 5 months?
No.
Okay, thank you. With regard to the referral list, did you find out why we were formalizing this list and if, whether or not they were gonna follow procurement?
Madam President, I did, I called over and did not get a return phone call, so if you'd like me to hold it on the, floor, I have no problem doing so.
It would be up to you. I just wouldn't be.
Yeah, we'll hold that on the, we'll hold that on the floor.
Okay. With item 4 and 5, did you figure out why these, positions were at, step 4?
No, Madam President, I did not. Do you wanna, want me to hold those also?
It would be up to you again.
Anybody else have any concerns?
All right. That concludes legislation and public work, team and resources.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to start, I think, today is, Assistant Corporation Counsel's birthday. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yes, happy birthday. We're gonna have to speak to Corporation Counsel while he has you working on your birthday. But, happy birthday to you. I have item number 6, from the Youth Bureau, an ordinance granting permission to the Mount Vernon Youth Bureau's Ready for Life to sponsor a college tour. And this is no cost to the city, and this is on the agenda. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Thompson, Public Safety and Codes.
Thank you, Council President. Item number 7 is for information purposes only from Consumer Protection, the monthly report for December 2024. Item number 8 on the agenda from Public Safety, and ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Interaction Insight Corporation for the renewal of the NICE Inform V and plan for the police department. Item number 9 is also on the agenda from Public Safety. And ordinance, amending ordinance number 14, adopted July 10th, 2024, entitled an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Secure Watch 24 for the purchase of 21 tablet-style mobile computers for the Department of Public Safety. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, and that's on the agenda, item number 9. All right, question for Public Safety and Codes. My question to Deputy Corporation Counsel, can you grab the mic? Did we find out if this renewal was in the original contract?
Yes, it is.
So why do we need a new contract for it?
It technically just be an extension. What happens is the contract automatically renews until the parties, at least on our end, until we terminate it.
Right, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. Why are we entering into a whole new contract then? I didn't hear you, Councilman Thompson.
I'm wondering if the new contract is because how it's paid for or not.
Well, no, it should be able to be paid if we have in the original contract, if it's an extension.
Not how it's paid for, but some of the payment terms have changed.
Okay.
It does.
Councilman Potteet?
And I'm trying to find my notes here, but if it's being paid from a different budget line, then they would have to come back to council.
No, the budget line wouldn't be inside the contract. Budget line is internal to us. But do we know or are we guessing? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
That's what Commissioner said. Said that initially this was supposed to be paid through ARPA funds and
No,
that
no, 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 you guys are talking about the wrong one. I'm talking about
Yeah,
item number
it's
8. You
number-
guys are talking about 9.
I tell you what, since this is under my committee, if you want to give me just a few minutes to,
Yeah, I mean, we also can hold it. The contract doesn't renew until April 1st. We could address it at the next meeting if you want to.
that's fine.
Are you sure? I'm not putting pressure
No,
on
no,
you.
I understand. But yeah, I mean, listen, if it's not till April 1st, we're in January.
Yeah,
so
I would
that's-
like clarity on what,
There's no rush.
if it's actually an extension or not, or why are we entering into a new contract?
All right. I did say the terms are different, so
The terms
the
are
payment
different,
terms.
so then it's not a
payment terms.
renewal.
So we can renew the agreement, but the amount that's going to be paid now changes because it increases. So,
I'd tell you
but
what. I
if you want
mean,
to hold it, we can look at it.
Yeah, we'll just hold it. Right? Normally, things are coming to us last minute. This isn't that. So let's just do the research.
Okay.
So let me read this differently. Item number 8 will be on the agenda, but then will be held on the floor.
Madam President,
Councilman Gleason?
I did, hear back from Commissioner Sproul.
Mm-hmm.
He said we're starting at step 4 as per Union and Human Resources because the environmental background. And they've been working in the position for 2 years. He also, he said that he would get on Zoom if you need any further explanation.
They've been working in the position that we're creating for the last 2 years?
Like I said, I asked him to get on Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be lovely if he can get on Zoom. I don't understand that.
Is he on Zoom?
Okay, we can come back to
Okay.
legislation and public works. Finance and planning?
Yes, number 10. From the Office of the Controller, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement with the U.S. Department of Transportation to receive a $1 million innovative finance and asset concession grant. That's on the agenda. Number 11 from the IDA, resolution requesting New York State Senator Jamal Bailey and Assembly Member James Gary Petlow for introduction of home rule legislation to amend tax law to authorize the collection of hotel occupancy tax in the city of Mount Vernon. That is on the agenda. I know that Director Mack was supposed to speak last night. Did you want to get a chance to speak on that tonight? Or add to any our discussion?
Well, we can go through at the end.
All right, that's fine. Sure. All right, number 12. So that's for now. Number 11 is on the agenda. All right, number 12. An ordinance authorizing the conveyance of 0 Vernon Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York to Myrtle Jones, and to authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. And that is on the agenda as well. Number 13, a resolution requesting New York State Senator Jamal Bailey and Assemblyman Gary Pretlow to introduce a home rule legislation to increase transfer tax fees. And that is on the agenda.
Thank you, Councilman Box Hill.
Sure.
Director Mack, would you like to speak to the hotel occupancy tax legislation?
Only if there are any questions, but I can quickly add that there presently isn't a hotel occupancy tax in the city of Mount Vernon. We do know that with some of the commercial development proposals coming into the city are a few hotels. And so we want to be prepared in the event that one of these does go into fruition. We want to make sure that the city collects that additional revenue. The other thing is that the hotel occupancy tax will be extended to some of the short-term rentals, which are commonly known as Airbnb, or rentals that are offered for a short-term basis on some of these platforms known as Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway. Most of these rentals are used for tourist purposes, or if a family member is coming to stay for a short period of time. Homeowners use this as an additional form of revenue, which means they are commercializing their home. And so for that purpose, we want to ensure that this hotel occupancy tax is also extended to those short-term rentals.
Madam President, I have a question.
Councilman Box Hill?
Thank you. Do we have an idea about how many Airbnbs do we have active or arranged? I mean, I know some of them come online and go offline depending on the season and such, but approximately?
You're correct. They are seasonal. They come on and offline, but the average is 100 at any given time.
Wow, I had no idea it was that many. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Director Mack? I see Commissioner Sproul on. Oh, sorry, Councilman Potteet.
Hi, Director Matt. Good evening. Question, with the Airbnbs, if we pass this tax, how would we enforce it with Airbnbs? Do we have to go through Airbnb directly, or would we go directly to the homeowner or building owner for the tax?
We go directly to the homeowner or the building owner. This is also in line with the legislation council passed back in the summer of 2024, instituting a short-term rental directory, which will be held, which will be housed in the Department of Buildings for access also internally and with the assessor's office. But the tax will be taken at the local level, so it'll be directly to the controller's office, and will not funnel through the normal sales tax process. This is the same standard used for any municipality in Westchester County that has a hotel occupancy tax. But for the purposes of my research, I spoke with our neighboring municipalities, New Rochelle, Yonkers, and White Plains, for guidance.
And just curious, how is Yonkers enforcing this tax? That the reason that I'm diving into this is, if I have a home, you know, in January, maybe in December, maybe I'm using Airbnb because of the Christmas season, but maybe January, February that I'm not using. So if I get that tax bill in March or June saying that I owe taxes for the year, I'm probably gonna contest that tax bill and say, okay, show me when I actually use this. So how would the city deal with a homeowner that may be fighting it and saying, I only use Airbnb 6 months out of the year?
So, you know, there's multi-layers to this. The first is the requirement for a homeowner to register their, and what you, for the purpose of, you know, making it easier, we'll use the term Airbnb. That's an overarching term for short-term rental. So there's the requirement as legislated by the council in the summer of 2024 that those who are using Airbnb or operating as an Airbnb must register with the city of Mount Vernon. I am collaborating with the Department of Buildings to establish a permit specifically for that, and Commissioner Holder and I will be coming before the council in February to speak about that process. So that process is separate from what I am discussing tonight, but feeds into one another. The requirement for anyone operating as an Airbnb is that they would apply for a permit through the Department of Buildings. That permit number is then fed to the short-term rental platform, Airbnb, VRBO, homeowner, HomeAway.com. That permit number must be displayed on the platform. And what each of these platforms does is they then generate a report for the number of days that that particular home operated as an Airbnb within a quarter. That report is then fed not just to the Department of Buildings, but also to our controller's office as well as to the assessor's office. And therefore, when the tax bill is generated, it will then all reconcile. And collection will occur based on the reconciliation.
Great, awesome. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so a thing that I think that we should do actually, so when I went to NLC, National League of Cities, Airbnb actually did a presentation, and what they've done is they've partnered with local governments, and they have the ability to automatically collect the occupancy tax and remit it to the city as well. So for Airbnb and other short-term rental sites that do that, I think our legislation should require them to remit it so that we're not doing additional work on our end, or the comptroller's office is doing additional work. And then for others who have the short-term rentals as well, we can have them collected in the way that Director Mack suggested. So I think we should have the actual provider, because they're different from like your traditional hotels, et cetera, and they're willing to have those partnerships with the government.
So I worked very closely with Airbnb on devising a process, and we're looking at that automatic remittance from Airbnb to the city. But for now, that has not been flushed out. So.
Any other questions for Director Matt? Awesome. Lost my train of thought. Yes, Commissioner Sproul, I see you online. So we had some questions, and we, meaning me, had some questions around the two positions and why they were coming in at a step 4.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
These two positions were actually created in collaboration and in conjunction with the Office of the Mayor, Civil Service, and also Human Resources. They are positions were created because of the New York State Department of Health mandate concerning the backflow program that is non-existent in Mount Vernon that we are now creating, and also the next step concerning the actual situations that we are having with the lead service program. These two individuals have been working for the city of Mount Vernon for 2 years now. They are two environmentalists with environmental degrees, both in physics, and also one with a GI and physics. And in discussion with the mayor, she thought that it was really important that we do everything that was necessary to maintain these two young people. She took them also with her to the UN with regard to that national platform they were having concerning environmentalists. They very much want to work for Mount Vernon, but because they were here 2 years, HR and civil service and everybody got together to try to bring this salary to the place where it would be competitive with other municipalities, which was starting at step 4. The union was in total agreement and involved. And so this is our final legislation for it. That was the reason why.
And what positions were they in for the 2 years that they've been working here?
I'm sorry?
What positions were they in for the 2 years that you say they've been working with the city?
Well, one was actually an intern while they were in school for 2 years. And when she graduated in environmental degree, she was working with lead service program that helped to develop the actual program that we see now. A really extraordinary young person. And the other gentleman, Mr. Nasir, his specialty in GI designations, and he has been working as a field representative and data entry person for lead service as it relates to the actual inventory requirement that was mandated by the federal government in New York State, which we met before time for October 16th of 2024. So our inventory to the federal government for all lead services have been met, and we're very proud of that.
And you said that the union was involved with this, the development of these
Yes.
roles?
Yes. Mhm. They gave us the okay. They gave us the okay.
Any questions for Commissioner Sproul from anyone else? Thank you, Commissioner Sproul.
My pleasure. Everyone have a good evening.
Good evening, good evening. All right, so we can go ahead, well, actually we can go ahead into a roll call.
Councilman Boxell,
Present.
Councilwoman Gleason,
Here,
Councilman Potteet,
Here.
Councilman Thompson,
Here.
Council President Brown.
Here. Legislation and Public Works.
thank you, Madam President. Item number 1, Office of the Mayor and ordinance authorizing the mayor and chief of staff to attend the National League of Cities Congressional City Conference in Washington, DC. So moved.
Second.
On the
Second.
question? Please stop stealing his job. On the question? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilman Boxell,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason,
Aye.
Councilman Potteet,
Aye.
Councilman Thompson,
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye.
Item number 2, Department of Public Works, an ordinance authorizing the lease agreement for office space at 6 Gramerton Avenue, Suite 203, Mount Vernon, New York, 10550. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilman Boxell,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason,
Aye.
Councilman Potteet,
Aye.
Councilman Thompson,
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye.
Item number 3, Department of Public Works, an ordinance establishing a list of qualified environmental sustainability consultants. I'm going to hold that on the floor. Item number 4, Board of Water Supply, an ordinance authorizing the Board of Water Supply to add a position entitled Water Resource Specialist. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilman Boxell,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason,
Aye.
Councilman Potteet,
Aye.
Councilman Thompson,
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye.
Item number 5, Board of Water Supply, an ordinance authorizing the Board of Water Supply to add a position entitled Water Quality Analyst. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilman Boxell,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason,
Aye.
Councilman Potteet,
Aye.
Councilman Thompson,
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye. I'm assuming
That is all for LPW.
Thank you. Human Resources?
Thank you, Madam President. I have item number 6 from the Youth Bureau, an ordinance granting permission to the Mount Vernon Youth Bureau's Ready for Life sponsor, a college tour. Once again, at no cost to the city. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilman Boxell,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason,
Aye.
Councilman Potteet,
Aye.
Councilman Thompson,
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye. Public Safety and Codes?
Yes, item number 7, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Interaction Insight Corporation for the renewal of the NICE in Form V and plan for the police department will be held on the floor. Item number 8, Department of Public Safety, and ordinance amending ordinance number 14 adopted July 10th, 2024, entitled an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Secure Watch 24 for the purchase of 21 tablet-style mobile computers for the Department of Public Safety. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilman Boxell,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason,
Aye.
Councilman Potteet,
Aye.
Councilman Councilman Thompson, sorry,
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye. Finance and planning?
Yep, thank you. Number 9. So, from the Office of the Controller, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement with the U.S. Department of Transportation to receive a 1 million innovative finance and asset concession grant. So moved.
Second.
On the question? On the question, Deputy Corporation Counsel, have we reviewed this contract? All right, nothing we should be worried about?
Yes, we have, nothing to worry.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Councilman Boxell,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason,
Aye.
Councilman Potteet,
Aye.
Councilman Thompson,
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye.
All right, number 10. From the IDA, resolution requesting New York State Senator Jamal Bailey and Assemblymember James Gary Pretlow for introduction of home rule legislation to amend tax law to authorize the collection of hotel occupancy tax in the city of Mount Vernon. So moved.
Second.
On the question. So on the question, I'm reading the resolution that was drafted up. So it specifically says, like motel, asking them to implement a motel and hotel tax rate. And I'm just now getting the chance to read it. Will this include the short-term rentals?
The referral letter included short-term rentals. And saying the resolution does not mention that language.
Yeah,
Let's see,
so
let's
the
see.
specific requests in, let me just confirm. I mean, you can speak to it, Deputy Corporation Counsel.
Let me look.
Is that not in the definition?
I'm trying to review it now. I'm
Okay,
asking you, do you?
it should be there. If not, it should be there.
So definition here of hotel and motel are to mean and include any facility providing an overnight basis, on an overnight basis, and shall include those facilities designated and commonly known as bed and breakfast and tourist facilities. And tourist is in quotations, so does that include short-term rentals?
We can clarify that. Necessarily. The goal is to include it.
There's no reason why we can't spell that out, though, to just
Okay.
add the verbiage. I agree with the Council President.
Okay, so I guess we'll hold this on the floor.
Sure. All right, thank you for that, Council President. Where is I? Number 12. So we're gonna hold that on the floor. Should we take a motion to hold it on the floor? Or we just
You
hold
just
it?
hold it.
All right. All right. So, yep. Number. Oh, sorry. I'm looking at the.
Yeah, like Airbnb,
Forgive me.
short-term rental.
All right. Number 11. An ordinance to authorize the conveyance of 0 Vernon Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York, to Myrtle Jones, and to authorize the mayor to execute all necessary documents. So moved.
Second.
On the question? Yes.
I'm confused, Councilmember Boxell,
Mhm.
on this letter because both lots are on one block and lot. And even when I read this yesterday, what I'm trying to figure out is, I'm pretty sure as a city, we tax on block and lot, or maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe we don't tax on block and lot. But if we do tax on block and lot, then how was one site conveyed and the other site wasn't? And how was a partial tax payment made if the bill is for one block and lot? And really not so much for this letter, that I'm curious to how we bill taxes in general, because I'm worried that this error may pop up again with lots that are large lots that have land on it that may be on a corner lot.
I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure this is not this. It can't be the same block and lot.
No,
though.
it's that the letter says specifically that it's the same block. That's what kind of made my spidey
Right.
senses go up.
40, 47, 12.
So just something that you know, that you,
Uh-huh.
to ask the assessor's office how that works. And how did this slip through the cracks? And then if there are other lots where that might be an issue too.
I think one of the issues in this particular matter was that the parcel has the same address for both lots, but the lots are separate. And that the, title company made a payment. I guess they thought they covered both lots and they only did it for one. So, I mean, I think your question is a fair question, but I think that's what caused the issue here.
Right, but then are we billing on address or do we bill on lot? Because if we're billing based on block and lot, that there's only one block and lot. If we're billing based on address, then that's fine, but then this same error may be popping up where there's more than one address on one block and lot. That's all. So
Okay.
something to just check. Because maybe there's 20 other properties that we aren't even thinking about that may have the same error.
Possibly. I know this matter has been, I think it's what, over 10 years old? Yeah, it's been an issue.
Any other questions, comments? Roll call?
Councilman Box Hill?
I just wanted some clarity on what, because what Councilman Potteet says is he makes a good point, but
You can hold it and get clarity from Corporation Counsel.
I mean, it's been going on for a decade, so. Okay. Yeah, because speaking to the controller and even speaking to council president, I thought we we understood this. I mean, did you want us to add clarity to it?
You should get clarity from Corporation Counsel.
Yeah,
It's his letter. You should get clarity from him and the assessor if you want.
all right. All right, one more meeting won't, I mean,
So,
they've been waiting
I-
10 years, so
Um,
is there, I mean, is there gonna be a mortgage issue with this? It's gonna arise if we hold it for another meeting?
I mean, what mortgage issue can come about, after 10 years,
Right.
that won't be?
Madam President, they could be in the process of remortgaging, and that becomes an issue. So I don't know if there is any timeline on this. I'm just raising that issue that it could be a potential issue. Will Corporation Counsel have any idea on that?
I don't, but I could check with Corporation Counsel Johnson. I think if it was, he probably would have included that in the letter. I know it's sensitive in the sense that it's been so long, but I think he would have put that in there, but we can check.
Just to clarify, it's a deed transfer issue. It's not a mortgage issue. So someone's trying to transfer deed and that's why this popped up. It's just really.
Right, but in a transfer issue, they could be trying to mortgage the property. It could be a family member trying to do the change of deed to then mortgage the whole 2 lots. I'm just raising that could be a potential issue, but you know, we'll get clarity from Corporation Counsel by the next meeting.
So I think you had asked a question last meeting yesterday about are we combining the lots? So someone asked that question. Is that what's happening here? A lot that was maybe off the grid, we're saying it's going to be one. I don't know. Because I mean, the letter coming from in November 2023, 2023 says, make a recommendation to the city council to convey 0 Mount Vernon and adjoining vacant lot to 286 McLean Avenue. So that kind of sounds like a combining. So, all right, so we'll just get the clarity since we're kind of guessing right now. So, all right.
So there was a motion on the floor. Do I have a motion to withdraw the motion that was put forward?
I'll make a motion to withdraw.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Box Hill?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason?
Aye.
Councilman Potteet?
Aye.
Councilman Thompson?
Aye.
Council President Brown?
Aye.
All right, moving on to number 12. Resolution requesting the New York State Senator Jamal Bailey and Assembly Member Gary Pretlow to introduction of home rule legislation to increase transfer tax fee.
Second.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? So on the question, I'm looking at this resolution here. I just want to get some clarity. So it says, whereas, by letter dated January 13th, blah, blah, blah. We requested a resolution requiring, Senator Jamal Bailey and Assemblyman Gary Pretlow to introduce state bill authorizing an amendment to local law 2023 -4 to increase transfer tax. Were we even authorized to pass local law 2023-4 without approval from the state?
I believe we were. The issue was afterwards, they realized that the percentage we had was higher and that the state had to make that particular determination. So this is why then the request was to have the state legislators basically acknowledge or agree to our increase.
I'm not sure I followed. Can you repeat that?
I believe once it was done and we came up with, Mount Vernon came up with its percentage, its tax, that amount was higher than what the state had set aside for Mount Vernon. So we're going to our legislators, asking them basically to approve our increase.
So
So they can run it up on both sides and they could either say yay or nay to it. If they say yay, then we're fine.
So are we sure? Or are we guessing? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because you're saying you believe, so that makes me feel like you're not certain about it.
Okay, so let me correct that. My understanding is that our percentage was higher than what the state had, what the law says the state is allowing us to do, which is why we're asking them to now give us approval to continue to do it.
But that's not how we would do any other law. If the state law says something, and we have to request permission to pass a law before we pass a law. But it seems like we kind of reverse the order.
Yeah, it seems this was passed and then recognized afterwards that there was an issue.
Yeah, so
So either they could say that, hey, it's unconstitutional, y'all can't do it, or they can decide that they want to allow us to keep the modification.
Councilman Boxell, you had something? I saw you raise your mic.
No, I really don't know. I mean, we're raising it from 1% to 1.5%, right? So
That's what we were doing, yeah, so
I'm not sure.
please. Yes, answer that, please come up. So what was your understanding?
Say my name and all of that.
No, I think you're fine.
So the way I understand it is that when the original legislation was passed, it was realized that our percentage was lower than everyone else in our surrounding area.
Yeah.
And so the request was to
To
increase it and went from 1%
To
to 1.5%.
Right. So what Deputy Corporation Counsel is saying is he believes that our 1.5% is higher than what the state authorizes us to do. No?
No, that's not what
I may be wrong on that. I need to confirm that. That was my understanding.
So, can we hold this till we confirm?
How does this affect
I mean, this law was passed in 2023, right? So it's
Right.
been affected. It was supposed to be included in our 2024 revenue. It's supposed to be included in our 2025 revenue. So this is part of, kind of the confusion and frustration that we've been facing, right? Is that there's no clear systems on how to get these laws passed. And I mean, honestly, I'm struggling because this was passed in 2023, right? And we're still trying to figure out the mechanics of it, and we
Yeah.
don't quite know. And we rely on guidance from the law department.
Yeah, my question was, how does this affect, the state's calendar as far as getting it onto their agenda if, we hold it? That was my question.
It's a good question. I don't know. But would you rather pass something that's inaccurate and send it up and then it gets sent back down and it takes longer?
Point taken. All right, so, all right, let's hold off on it then. That's all the items I have tonight. Thank you.
Comments, questions? From council? So actually, there was a motion on the floor. It was seconded. Do we have a motion to withdraw it?
I'll make a motion to withdraw,
The second.
but I also like to make a comment.
Yep.
The referral of these are very important. And I just want, us to do a better job when these items come to us. And I will say that one of the, disadvantages of having a work session the night before a public session is our hands sometimes are tied when it comes to getting in touch with, commissioners and even thinking about something a little bit, longer. So, I don't know if we could try and fix that part of the system where we get our paperwork a little bit earlier. So, I know we've spoken about that, but we haven't really we've spoken to the administration. I think we have to make a better play to the administration, telling them that we need to really get this paperwork a little bit earlier, despite whether there is a holiday or not, because there's just not enough time to review some of the material.
Any additional comments, questions? All right, roll call.
Councilman Box Hill,
This is roll call for.
The withdrawal of the motion.
Withdrawal. Got it. Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason,
Aye.
Councilman Potteet,
Aye.
Councilman Thompson,
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye. Is there any new business? Any comments, any thoughts that this council member is going to share with the public? Yeah, that item is being held. So no, Councilman Gleason?
No, I was just gonna make a motion to adjourn.
I can't hear you, Councilman Thompson.
I was gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, not you. Oh, did you hold it on the floor?
Number 12
And 10. Because we what?
it was the last two, right?
No, 10 and 12 was held. So he's saying that Councilman, Box Hill, Councilman Thompson is saying, can you hold that on the floor? Say that on the record?
Oh, sure.
He held 10 already.
Yeah, the last,
10, 11, and 12.
the home rule, the property conveyance, right? The zero, to Myrtle Jones, 0 Vernon Avenue, as well as it wasn't just those two.
No, so you had the hotel occupancy tax. We wanted to
Oh.
make sure the short-term rental legislation was
Correct.
correct. We have the conveyance of the property, and we also have the resolution for the transfer tax fee.
Got it. So, yep. And your question was, can I ask, oh, can we hold number 12 on the floor? Yes, that was it.
12 is held on the floor. All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to,
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Box Hill,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gleason,
aye?
Councilman Potteet,
Aye.
Councilman Thompson,
Aye.
Council President Brown.
Aye. Have a great night, Mount Vernon, and we'll see you back here for the February meetings.